Hey guys, my name is Nick and welcome to my channel where I cover all things entertainment. Whatever you're watching, I'm making videos about. And on Saturdays, I like to take a look at my favorite streaming service, Shudder, and find a good horror recommendation for you guys. But I was thinking about it and I was like, for anyone out there who doesn't have Shudder or is thinking of getting a free trial, I thought I'd put together a starter guide for you. Because we all know how it goes when we get on a new streaming service and there are a million options and you're scrolling for hours and it's all just a huge waste of time. So I've done the work to break down for you 13 spooky recommendations on Shudder so you get a full idea of what this service is like. And I don't mean to, toot my own horn or anything, but I think this is a pretty damn good list. Number 13 is Eli Roth's History of Horror, an entertainment program hosted by filmmaker Eli Roth, who has made movies like Cabin Fever and Hostel, and it pretty much tracks the entire history of horror films, from Universal monsters to modern favorites. I like anything that celebrates horror fandom, especially when you have people within the genre involved. Anything that reminds me of Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments just kind of is my thing.
Presenting the 100 Scariest Movie Moments, a countdown of the greatest moments of cinema shot.
You find that on YouTube, that's a good time. But if you like this show, there is going to be a second season coming, so we get more of this. Plus, on Shudder, they also have an extended podcast version in case you just can't get enough. And if you liked that, then you should enjoy number 12, Cursed Films, a docuseries that explores the stories behind iconic horror films like The Omen, Poltergeist, and The Exorcist. Whether or not you believe the cases surrounding the films are attached to the films themselves, it's a fascinating subject to look at these big major horror films that are all the subject of this conversation. Are we reading way too into these events, or is there more to the story? That's for you to decide, but we're getting another season of this one too. If you like stuff that delves into the behind the scenes of horror filmmaking, then you might also want to check out The Core. I meant to squeeze this into the actual list, but I'm just kind of cheating right now. But this show is hosted by filmmaker Mickey Keating as he explores the many different aspects of making a movie. It's like if you took the special features of any horror DVD and made a TV show out of it. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure it's canceled, but hey, I really enjoy it. But you're gonna want to check out the best of their exclusives and originals. So start with number 11, Lake Bottom. This Finnish teen horror film features a group of friends who head to a famous murder site to try and crack the cold case, but they end up finding themselves in a recreation of past horrific events. Don't expect a slasher film, but go in prepared to go along for the ride because this road has all the twists and turns. Well, I just recorded half of this video with my mic off. That was lovely. Number 10 is Satanic Panic, a horror comedy about a pizza delivery driver who takes one last order for the night to a rich neighborhood where a group of wealthy Satanists try to kidnap her to sacrifice her to the devil. This movie is bonkers hilarious and violently ridiculous, and I don't really care for a whole lot of horror comedies, but this one strikes the right balance that does it for me. And I'll just say it right now, this one is perfectly paired with We Summon the Darkness, which is currently on Netflix. It's time for an 80s dose of horror, and if you love gory madness, then you're gonna love number 9, because it's Demons. A theater full of moviegoers are affected by the horror film that they're watching and turn into bloodthirsty demons. Think The Evil Dead, but in a movie theater, but it's so much more than that. And if you really enjoy Demons, well, they also have Demons 2 on Shudder. At number 8, we have the most important documentary on the service, and that is Horror Noir, which tracks the history of Black representation within the horror genre. It's an adaptation of Robin Means Coleman's book, but by taking the material and putting it to the screen, we get to hear how people who actually lived through this history within the industry get to tell their own stories. I mean, you get Ken Free and David Keith singing the Monster Mash at one point. It doesn't get better than that. This one is like 80 minutes, so it's short and simple and really entertaining, but they also have a longer podcast version just like that Eli Roth show in case you want to hear all of the extended interviews. And because I'm so good at squeezing other recommendations into my recommendations, let me quickly tell you that they also have another documentary, Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, which is all about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, and how the main actor in that film dealt with homophobia in Hollywood, and how that movie has, come to be celebrated as a major gay slasher. I, in fact, love it for reasons. Going super dark, at number 7, I have Tigers Are Not Afraid, a horror drama about a group of orphan children in Mexico who are armed with 3 magic wishes to use against the ghosts that haunt them and the cartel that hunts them. This movie isn't normally my type of thing, but I think that it is so damn well made it could be just about anyone's thing. It mixes realism with fantasy in a way that explores horror on a completely different level. Switching gears completely once again to another horror comedy, at number 6 I have One Cut of the Dead. This Japanese mockumentary follows a film crew shooting a low-budget zombie film when actual zombies attack. I can't really say anything about this one because I'm not one to spoil a movie, but let me just say that it's really more of a comedy about filmmaking, but I think it's also a great example of how comedy can sometimes be horror, and I think it just goes to show how all-encompassing Shudder is, and that's exactly why I love it. At number 5, it's time for another dose of 80s horror, and what could be better than Creepshow 2? This anthology horror from Stephen King and George A. Romero is the sequel to the 1982 favorite, and while it might not be as good as the original, it needs to be seen just for the raft sequence alone. And if you like that, you should go straight into number 4, which is season 1 of Creepshow, probably Shudder's number 1 original. This anthology series, based on the aforementioned films, consists of 6 episodes, and in each episode we get 2 scary stories that cover all kinds of different horrors, from Nazi werewolves to men in suitcases to creepy children on Halloween. They're not all great, but overall it's a good time. And there's something about anthology horror. Even though there are so many few good ones, anthology horror is just always a fun time. You take the good with the bad and you have a spooky good time. And we've got a 2nd season coming our way, so you gotta catch up because you know I'm gonna be covering it. Number 3 is Haunt, a recent slasher about a group of friends who go to an extreme haunted house only to find that it's a little too extreme because they get picked off one by one. It sounds very basic and simple because it is, but it's a fun Halloween haunted house themed slasher film. You know I'm gonna love it. This is my shit. Number 2 is Mandy, a hallucinogenic revenge fever dream starring Nicolas Cage. Andrea Riseborough co-stars as a couple living deep in the woods when a crazy cult sets their sights on them, which leads to a vicious attack. This movie is slow, and I mean molasses moving in slow motion kind of slow, but it also gets really badass at the end, and it's overall just so visually impressive and just absolutely wild and bonkers, you kind of just have to watch it. Fun fact, they also have deleted scenes and special features on the service. And number 1 is Revenge, a movie that follows a young woman named Jen who is on a romantic getaway in Morocco with her married boyfriend when his 2 hunter buddies show up and turn things into a party. One of them rapes Jen and then the others leave her for dead, but Jen uses all of the will in the world to survive and fight back against the trio of men who drastically underestimated her. It's a little bit longer than it needs to be, but I otherwise think it's quite perfect because it is bloody, action-packed, and satisfying as all hell. Director Coralie Farge takes the rape revenge subgenre, which frankly doesn't even need to exist, and creates the best entry one could, in my opinion. And that's my list of starter recommendations on Shudder. I tried to keep it to 13, but you know, I cheat. I can't help it. I just gotta keep throwing those recommendations at you because I was looking at it and they not only have all of these, but they also have so many classic horror films that I think are required viewing if you're new to Shudder. So I'm gonna make a part 2 to this to put up next week because I want to go over all of these great movies that they have, because put these 2 videos together and you'll have the ultimate streaming guide, especially heading into Halloween season. This is gonna be perfect. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it. Leave me a comment to let me know what your favorites are and what you're watching on Shudder. Subscribe so that you can be on the lookout for this next video and other Shudder videos. I post them every Saturday. I like to look at something on Shudder. Sometimes I miss a video here or there, but you can look at my Shudder Day playlist to find other recommendations on the streaming service. That's my nerdy little name for this whole thing. Also, In Search of Darkness. That's another one. That's the last movie I did. That also belongs on this list. I'm just squeezing more and more in there. That is it for this video, but I won't stop you from watching another.